Good morning, everyone. Those who have joined right now. So we are starting our second session of the day, which is by our Noida chapter. So the topic that we are going to discuss today is Agile transformation from scattered to agile scaled. And Roma Jain will be our speaker for this session. So before we begin this session, I would like to thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots. It is a leading consultancy and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. Please visit www.innovationroots.com to have a look at their upcoming summits and trainings. Thank you. Next, we would like to thank our another sponsor, Gile. So Gile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services Limited. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Gile to adopt agile practices and scaled across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Disciplined Agile, Less and More. You can try out Gile for free for up to 20 users for 1 year by signing up at gile.io, or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demo as well. Check out the Gile page on Agile Network India website for more information. Now, I would like to hand over the mic to Anmol so that she can introduce our speaker.
Over to you. Yeah, hi. So thank you so much, guys, for joining, and welcome, Roma. We are so looking forward to this session today. So just to give everybody a very quick, introduction about what we should expect today. So Roma, once she tells you more about herself, she's been to the field of agile implementations for quite some time now. She's very, very well versed with different frameworks, methodologies. She's done a few implementations in the past years. So today, when we were speaking to her, we realized that, a lot of organizations are generally adopting agile, but in a very scattered way. So what do we mean by scattered is that, maybe a couple of teams in your organization are agile, but there are organizations now which now want to go full on agile. So what does that really mean? That means they want to scale up the model. If they are running agile for a couple of teams or 10 teams, now they want to take it to 20 teams at a program level, at a portfolio level. There are many, many things that need to be taken care of. And since Roma is an expert, since she's done it, we will now hear from her today as to how this scaling would work. What were the issues that she faced with scattered teams, and then why they thought that scaling was better, and then the challenges that she found when she was scaling agile. So stuff like, so everything that Roma will talk about today is, how we move from a smaller model to a bigger model of implementing agile. Whenever you have any questions, guys, please put them on the chat window. We'll try and pick them up towards the end. So welcome, Roma. Once again, we look forward to a very, very informative session today. So over to you.
Thank you, Anmol. Thank you for the quick background and a good, summary of the session. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see that. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. Wish you all a very happy and safe Holi. My name is Roma Jain. I'm working as a AVP in Genpact. I have been part of my agile journey for last 12 years. And currently working as a release manager and agile coach for Genpact. Agile coach is not my primary responsibility. My primary responsibility is release manager as per role. However, I earned agile coach title because of the experience and trainings I've conducted for my teams and at organization level. I take pride in my contributions towards agile transformations, transforming teams in the requirement processes, building data-driven frameworks, and taking them from the waterfall mindset to agile and to scaled agile. I'm a trainer for leading SAFe, SAFe Scrum Master, and SAFe for Team certifications. So today I will be talking about the agile transformations from scattered agile to scaled agile. And I have broken it into two parts: how to observe scattered agile when you're working for your organization, how to transform teams from scattered agile to being agile, and then take them on another transformation journey from agile teams to scaled agile. Mintu was asking some question in the previous session, regarding some of the practices. So hopefully I will be covering them, that how, if your organization is not ready, how you can take the buy-ins from different people. So hopefully I will be covering some of those questions. If not, then Mintu, please ask me post the session. So what is scattered agile? How do you identify those practices, right? So there are teams when they have some agile mindset and pick up few practices here and there in their own way from for some daily stand-ups in agile. I mean, that was the biggest thing I've seen, that they will be still using waterfall methodology, and but because they have the daily stand-up, so they'll think, oh, we are using agile. If you observe that the teams have, let's say some teams have monthly releases, but one sprint is of 4 weeks, that's not even agile, that's a mini waterfall. If you want to have monthly releases in agile world, your sprint should not be more than 1 week, right? Inconsistent ceremonies, only leads are participating in backlog refinement, rest of the teams is not even part of the refinement meetings. Sprint planning is an offline exercise. Some leads sit together, they plan the sprint, they assign tasks to the teams. That's not agile. Teams need to participate in that. Daily stand-ups, overrunning to 30 minutes to 1 hour. Sometimes it can just turn out to be a status meeting and basic essence of the scrum is lost, which is removing impediments. No central repository for stand-ups. Teams are managing their work through separate versions of Excel sheet. I mean, they should be using certain tools like Jira or Azure DevOps or some other change management tool they should be using for their daily stand-ups. Sprint demos are arranged for POs and other stakeholders, relevant stakeholders are missing. PO should not be part, the stakeholder whom you're presenting your sprint demo. They're part of the team. They should be presenting along with the developers to the other relevant stakeholders. When retros are not calendared, other observations could be estimations are given by product management, functional people, since engineering need to understand requirements, right? And they don't have time or they need stories. So sometimes I've seen product management will do the estimation. And, sometimes product management engineering, they have to, share the plan with the customers. That's why they do that. And sometimes I've seen they will just take the help of engineering leaders to do the estimation, not even developers, right? So engineering leader can give, like, who is not even part of the coding, sometimes they will just give estimates which are not going to work. So these are some of the scattered agile practices which you can see as part of your organizations. If that is there, then this case study probably will help you in that. So anybody recognize this triangle? This is a triple constraint triangle which we had from the time of waterfall, a hardened mindset, right? Time to time we agile coaches are given mandate from organizations, sure, go do agile, but please do it inside the traditional constraints. I've seen that cost is not that much, but scope, time, these are the very hardened constraints even in the waterfall world today, right? In the semi waterfall world today. So as long as it does not persist long, it is all right. Transformations are never easy. I'm taking quote from my Genpact Chief Digital Officer Sanjay Srivastav. He highlights, he said, digital is easy, transformations are hard. See, implementing digital tools, having Jira in place or other things in place is easy. However, transforming ways of working, mindset, culture, that change is tough. So having worked in multiple teams across various organizations, services, product development, small setups, I have become more and more aware that even if we try to follow agile using principles, manifesto, real learning come from applying practices, failing fast, bringing continuous improvement. Agile transformation to me means you should be ready to introspect and reflect time to time to change your strategy. There is no black and white formula or black and white framework which you can just plug the teams into and say that they have become agile. Continuous improvement is the key to success. So today I will be sharing my experiences of using a case study where we were using Scrum for development sprints for a big enterprise customer, and there were around 150 engineers, developers, testers, DevOps. Plus, if you consider extended team of product management and architects, HR, program management, security, compliance testing, the team was more than 300 people. There were 6 Scrum teams, which were mainly for the development. 1 to 2 Scrum teams were even more than size of 30. Plus 3 to 4 Scrum teams were for the testing practices or DevOps practices. So DevOps and test team leads were also part of the development Scrum meetings for writing their test cases and executing them. They used to run their separate Scrums. So I was assigned release manager to this team. Release managers in Genpact have most of the responsibility of program managers. However, we do not have the boundary to just do the program management. We can jump in anywhere, be it engineering, product management, client services. Wherever we see risk and wherever we see the processes missing, we help define the processes and help change the processes so that the deliveries are not at risk, right? So apart from regular sprints, product testing, security performance testing, in this case study which I'm talking about, there were regulatory compliance checks on processes like requirements, code review, evidence need to be captured, plus getting 95% test case passing score was mandate, along with the evidence collection. Once the test cases are passed, you are supposed to capture the screenshots. Now, achieving that, certainly it was stretching any defined releases. And of course, there were mandates that they are supposed to write the business requirement documents, the BRDs, functional specs, right? So all these evidence, so all of that from the waterfall days, those were all part of the compliance checks, right? So they were supposed to do that for that customer. So last release overran by almost a year after functional testing was done. In order to fix, functional, security, performance, or compliance tests, plus incorporating feedback given by the customer. Since customer was seeing one big release and customer could not get their hands on the incremental releases, right? So because of the compliance testing, it could only towards the end we could give the release to the customer. So now I was given responsibility from leadership to ensure we deliver short quarterly releases to customer for early feedback. A very simple expectation from my role. So as you might have guessed from the background, team was struggling hard. Agile practices were there, scattered all over, no concrete result. So one good thing was daily stand-ups were there. So I started getting myself involved in the daily stand-ups of big teams. I told you like there were teams of 30 size, and the ones on the critical path, right? So there were many gaps. Some of them are mentioned in the bullet points in the previous slide and in this slide as well. Teams needed better coordination. They were not on the same cadence. Some were following 1 week sprints, some were following 2 weeks, some were following 4 week sprints, because we were using like different technologies, niche technologies. So some were not able to complete in 2 week sprint. So one or two teams used to be ahead of completing their work and others will be behind. Sometimes they will be lagging by one release, not much synchronization. So in such cases, how do you start, right? So recommendations are that you start, you take step-by-step approach. Don't try to directly force any framework as as is on the team. Start with small changes which have major impacts. Unless teams see something coming and something which is helping them to deliver, they will be resistant. So always go for changes which are least resistance by the team, right? And always go by Pareto 80-20 rule. Make very small changes where the impact is 80%. Then do the introspection and see and identify maybe 2 actions. It is a possibility that a lot of leaders are not with you. They don't understand the agile mindset, right? But as agile coach or as scrum master, it is your responsibility. You would know all the frameworks. You would know that what are the things which are there. but just use it to your benefit, and use it like where do you want to take the team. So identify 1 or 2 actions based on the maturity of the team and the organization. Customize that process, define that process, and I would say define it in a very simple diagrammatic form, easy to communicate to the big teams, not big documents, right? So just make a diagram and try to discuss it with the teams, first with the leaders and then with the team, and arrange multiple training sessions. That's how I did it, right? So I arranged multiple sessions for the team. Sometimes for the requirement process, I have arranged 4 or 5 sessions. For the story pointing, I have arranged, multiple sessions, 10, 15 sessions. So this is how I started, right? So what I did, the first thing was that I brought, my easy win was that I brought all of them to a 2-week sprint, starting and ending at the same time. It was an easy win, very little resistance. Nobody minded that. Yeah, we can do 2-week sprint and we can start and end at the same time. Teams were not sure about the release dates. There were release versions which were confusing and all over. Some release of the same product will be called, 1A, some will be called 2.1, some will be given by the customer name. So it was all over. So I discussed with the product management, floated very simple release naming conventions, calling it release 2021 Q1, so that everyone understand where we are working, right? Simplified their sprint names, call them team name underscore sprint 1, sprint 2, like very simple, so that we can easily recognize that okay, all of them are on sprint 1 or sprint 2. Earlier some were using a continuous number 58, 59, some were using sprint ABC, some were just not using their team names, things like that. There was no scrum of scrum. I started holding a 30 minutes daily scrum of scrum as a channel to open communication within the teams. Any confusions, doubt, anything which is coming from the management, that get tracked over there, any challenges, process changes. So it was all time bound, right? So we used to finish it in 30 minutes, not beyond that. So we used to get representatives from every team. So everybody wanted to come over there and discuss what are the challenges. So basically that helped us to align a common goal, ease of dependency management, and open up the communication channel. So this is what it helped me when I achieved that, right? So now next challenge was their capacity management, right? They didn't know what is the real capacity of the team. There were over commitments in the team. If team used to like promise 120 features, and when I say 120 features end to end, along with the compliance testing, they could barely complete 20, 30 in 1 quarter, and they used to think that we can complete 120. So initially there was no way to measure it. So team were calculating their capacity based on the man days, then take out some holidays and some buffer they used to keep, and estimate features in the t-shirt sizing. Because it was a big product, it was not easy to break it down into stories, and that is where they were using the agile approach. Let's not break the requirements, let's not discuss them in detail, and break it into stories was not there. So at the feature level, t-shirt estimate was being done, causing over commitment to the scope. As I said, team used to promise 120 features. However, they will be able to deliver 20, 30. There was a lot of timeline pressures and no estimates were working. So I wanted to take them to the safe journey because of their interdependencies, but teams were not even agile. Their practices, mindset, everything was scattered all over, and they needed help. And there were a lot of legacy waterfall practices, as I said, BRD, functional specs, traceability metrics, all of that was supposed to be maintained. So some of them were required as part of the regulatory compliance. In order to change those practices, there was a change control board. So right, so all the changes needed to be signed off by the customer. So first we needed to find out that what will work for the team, right? That was a responsibility I was given. So I fixed their cadence, worked with product management for easy release naming conventions, sprint names, simplified things, started SOS to open up the communication. And side by side, I said, okay, let's move to the story point. So I conducted a lot of sessions on that. And why I emphasized on that, so that it allays fear of estimation. They can estimate and they don't have to estimate every 2 months again when they were overrunning, right? So they estimate it once, and based on their burn down capacity, we can figure out that how much they can burn. T-shirt sizing always give teams false confidence about their capacity. And even it has to be done, it should be by senior developers, not by functional people like product management or engineering managers who are not even part of the coding. So you should always get it from the senior tech leads or someone. So there was a lot of resistance while shifting to story points. It's a difficult concept to digest. Team was not sure even if they'll shift, how is it going to help them? I gave them cheat sheet. I like SAFe recommends that you give some formula of man days to story point to begin with for the first release, and ask them to just shift to the story points. So earlier dev teams were re-estimating their story every 2-3 months. So now story points save you from that. You estimate once, and based on your team velocity, you can make predictions, right? So product management could know. So team does not need to buffer their estimates. It remove worry of the wrong estimates. It encourage cross-functional behavior. Stories were estimated now by all functions together, and acceptance criteria gaps were plugged in even before starting the story. So another change which I recommended was the definition of done. Earlier it was dev complete. The sprint used to end with the dev completion, then it used to be handed over to the QA team because they were not part of the sprint team. So change the definition of done. I said, okay, let's include the sprint, inside the sprint, the QA testing also. I could only convince them to do the story testing. Still no performance, security, compliance testing. We were far away from that. No issues. I said, okay, at least, complete it with the story testing. So I had to go through resistance. Teams did not want to change. So I had to take, some from the top down approach also a little bit, but we were able to achieve it because it was still doable. Anyway, they were doing testing. It was only that I said story point completion I will only take when you will complete the testing. Doesn't matter whether you do it in first sprint, second sprint, third sprint. I will only call it complete, your effort to be complete, when the story testing is done. So now the biggest challenge which I faced was to bring them to the quarterly releases. As I told you, their mindset was the completeness, right? And I have to take them away from that mindset, totally opposite to what Agile says. So that is why I said you cannot just use any framework. I had to, propose them a mini waterfall for the quarterly release to accomplish. I said, okay, let's have 4 sprints in the quarterly release. Total was 6 sprints, and sprint testing as definition of done. Then we will do the functional compliance in the last 2 sprints. Again, splitting testing is not recommended by Agile or SAFe, so don't think that this is the final step. It's an intermediate step, but you need to observe the pulse of the team and see the resistance and then go step by step. What was my goal? My goal was to finish release in 1 quarter with whatever features team can do and get out without extended release to infinite time, right? To complete all the promised features with the regulatory compliance tech. That was not my idea. My idea was to give it to the customer for a early feedback. So I calculated story points for each team. They didn't know their capacity in story point, and gave the target to the product owners. I said, okay, go define the stories and whatever you want to do. So here is, for one team, it's 100 story points. For second team, it's 200 or 400. So I gave them all the targets. I said, okay, go now give us the stories. So of course, the requirements, because they were at the feature level at the beginning when the t-shirt sizing was done, when they started defining the stories, now the 100 story points became 400 story points by the end of the 4th sprint. So I stopped the development team from doing further development in the same branch. I asked them to cut a separate branch, and I said, okay, if you want to continue your development and complete your 120 features, do it on the separate branch, but whatever you could complete here, just stop it. Don't do it in the same branch. So what has happened, how out of 120 features, so I came to know, okay, 50 features were complete with sprint testing. So now we will go ahead with the 50 features. So there was a hiccup from the teams, and the compliance testing also, there was a pushback, but I said, no, we cannot do beyond 50 features. So let's close it with the 50 features this release. So dev team need to fix the regression bugs. So now the whole drama started. We still had 2 sprints, and when the team started to integrate, integration did not work across teams. More features became unusable. I gave them the guideline to fix bugs in both the branches. I said, fix it in the new branch and fix it in the same branch also. So whatever features were not usable, PO started doing the testing after integration of the features, right? End-to-end features. They said, no, this feature is not usable. This feature was not usable. I said, take it out of the release scope. Eventually, we ended up having 30 features after first round of testing. Again, first round of testing, there were bugs to be fixed, and we went into the second round of testing. Only 5 to 7 features could make, without bugs, and almost 20 features we could fix with high severity bugs. We ended up first release. There was not a much delay, but there was still a 18 days delay into the first release after 1 quarter. So 120 features promised, 5 product tested, 20 partially tested, lot of heartburns from the compliance testing team. They could not capture evidence because it was only 5 features instead of 120 they planned for, right? It didn't make sense for them to test only, 5 features. So in discussion with leadership, we decided to hand over that release to customer for early feedback with huge list of known issues for the remaining 15. So it was the first time customer got the release in 3 months for early feedback. It was not a perfect release. Still, it was not in a shape where customer, they could test it and they could give the, see the progress made by the team. Team got the praise from the management. This was the first release they could give in 1 quarter. Their morale boosted, right? So this is how you get the buy-in from the team. So in first release, what did we fix? Product management expectations, PO expectation, gave them the story point estimation, and ensure they feel responsible to prioritize, deprioritize at the story level, not just at the feature level. And give blessing to the features within the sprint, not waiting for the product testing cycle to begin. Another biggest achievement was that the team shifted to quarterly release, and story points gave everyone data point of team's real capacity. Product management understood that if they don't control the depth of the requirements, because they used to say, okay, I need, let's say, a library system, but in the library system, what all you need, nobody used to give that, right? So they understood that if they will add, keep on adding bells and whistles to the requirements, they will not get what they want, right? They have to control, and the MVP also came into their mind. So that was a slow, change in their mindset. Compliance team could, they were given that, okay, don't capture the evidences, but do the dry run during this time, right? So that was, they could do. That way they could still figure out if the code reviews were not happening, evidences are not getting captured. But for the test case evidences, they could do the dry run, they could get their testing, fixed, but their evidences can be captured once we have the complete release, maybe after 2 quarters or 3 quarters. Since it was a big team, for their successful releases to happen, it was very much required that the teams integrate, collaborate for cross dependencies before creating the release plan. So this was the success which we could achieve, right? Which I said, early feedback, and we could fail fast, and we could give the release to the customer. They could give feedback to us easily. So now what have we accomplished after the second release? Quarterly releases, Scrum practices in place, security dry run. Team started to focus on automation testing also. They understood that the product testing can be very easily reduced if they will start to focus on the automation piece, right? And the customer started to get releases for early feedback, and the story point estimations helped us in the prioritization of the features also. So it helped us in the faster time to market, early feedback, right? And more adapted to the changes. Happy customer, happy employees, increase in productivity. Still hiccups were there, and but still the team was progressing. So now the next step was that I had to take them, because of the cross team dependencies, I have to take them to the safe, right? Because so we use the quarterly release plan which we created, but we run the PI planning because we wanted to have them create a 4 sprint plan where they could see the cross dependencies between the teams, right? And where they could say, okay, if this story is dependent on the second team, then I have to do it in the first sprint, and things like that, right? So this is how you can take your teams and eventually get all the benefits which you want to take them to the teams to the scale level. So always my recommendation is always take a stepwise approach. That is my key takeaway from the session, right? So always target for the small wins where you face least resistance from the team. Frameworks are like tools. When we have to do certain work, we decide whether we want to use Excel or PowerPoint for that to happen, right? Similarly, don't get just any framework overload, their mindset of the team. Define the process based on the need, and you need to choose a framework. There are so many frameworks out there. There is a hybrid approach. There are so many. So just approach and any framework, use it as a tool, not as a base thing, right? And approach it step by step for the team. Introspect, reflect, select top 2 problems which you want to solve, and do the continuous improvement of your of your approaches. Let me end with a story, a very small story. 2 days back on the LinkedIn, I was reading this article and it resonates with me, maybe with some of you as well. When the soap, a bathing soap, gets smaller, my mother used to take that brand new soap and attach the old worn out soap on top of it. Initially it will slip away, right, not stick properly, but in few days it will slowly start to become part of the new soap and even disappear into it. The key is to keep going through those initial days when the pieces slip, when we face resistance, and feel as though it will never stick together, but it will. So you just need to be patient. The same principle apply to all of us. Attach yourself to something new, bigger than you, experience the friction, slippery slope, and attach yourself to it so strongly that you disappear into that role. And as the time goes by, you start to feel smaller. Attach yourself to something, another larger idea, another bigger experience. So with that, I will probably open it up for the Q&A. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Roma. Very, very informative. And more than that, I think it was very crisp, to the point, what people would like to hear. How you moved, what were the challenges, what were the gray areas for you. Awesome, very nicely put. I know there was one question which someone asked, repeatedly, and although someone did give an answer for that, but I'd still ask it for you. So somebody said that, can we
Sorry,
have
Anmol, I just wanted to check, is your camera working? If you could please come on the camera.
I cannot switch it on, Shreya. It is not giving me the possibility of switching on my camera.
Okay.
I think I don't have that.
How about right now?
No, not real. It says camera. Okay, let me just see if it is. Yeah. All right. Hi, guys. Okay. So, Roma, I was just reading a question which someone asked, and I quite like that question, where they said that is it possible that we have alignment with different sprint durations based on the type of features and stories? So when we are basically having a PI, can we have different sprints for different teams, or based on the feature or something? Is it a possibility?
So the size should be same. They should all be running through the same, should I share my screen? I said the cadence should be same. Let me share my screen again and, show you like how it should look like. Yeah, this one. So if you have different teams, they all should be on the same, cadence. If this team could be working on feature 1, even this team could be working on feature 1, because this is a backend team and this is a front end team or something, or some interdependencies. They are working on some architecture, they are, some other team. So all of them should be on the same cadence so that they can integrate and give the demo for that feature, right? This is how it should be. One iteration, and there should be one feature completed at least for the end of this iteration. These are your sprints. In SAFe terminology, they call it iteration, and here in Agile we call it sprint, but both mean same thing.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, yeah. It does. Yes, it does. It does. Okay. So, Roma, I have a question of my own. So I just wanted to know that when you are actually, because you've bifurcated teams and, you're creating a whole cadence there must be a lot of dependency between teams, right?
There was a huge dependency. That is why I said initially they could not even, within one release, they could not complete the feature. So for those dependencies, only PI planning says, let's work together, right? PI planning gives you a way where you create your plan, your 6 iteration plan, and you identify the dependencies, right? Even before starting your PI planning.
Got it. So, related to testing, just one question. So say you've identified the dependencies, right? Now, somewhere at the end of every PI, you're supposed to do testing for your features, whatever you've developed. And there are supposed to be integration checks with other features or other applications. Now, who takes care of these? Are these distributed, or is there a dedicated team who will do all the integration testing? Or like, team A will do a part of integration with team B will do the other part? Or do you keep a dedicated team separately which will do integration testing only?
See, some teams, they do it themselves if the engagement is low. But for our teams, because the number of people were huge, we had a separate DevOps teams who was doing the CI/CD. So it took us quite a good amount of time. First release we could not achieve it. Second release also we could only achieve it after the fourth sprint. So it takes time. It's not an easy thing to have it working. But when you start the new product development, put your foot down and try to get it achieved from the beginning. But yes, I mean, we had a separate team, DevOps team, who like every team will do their coding on their development teams and then deploying it on the dev server. But when we used to do the testing, the product testing, it used to be on the SIT environment or the product testing environment. So which means every team has to ensure that their code is working over there. And because you are doing the sprint testing, even sprint testing you will deploy. Every sprint you will deploy it on the product testing environment. And
Got
once
it.
you have
That makes
once you have CI/CD in place, you can even have it daily deployed. So if you have a CI/CD in place, then the way to do it, that you run, when you check in your code, you run the minimal test, right? We call them sanity test or the functional test, a small set which can be completed within an hour or so. And then towards the end of the day, you can run the complete set across all the teams and see if there are any defects which are coming. Then over the weekend, one time I had 12 environments where I had to do the CI/CD. So then over the weekend we used to run all the 12 environments and see whether it is working or not, right? So based on that you pick up, but you don't make your even check-in so hard that the teams cannot check in. Keep a minimal set. Yeah.
Got it. And that makes a lot of sense. I have another question for you, Roma. So somebody said, can you share some challenges from the customer's end in terms of defining the acceptance criteria for the user stories where the demo is going on as expected, but new things keep popping up and moving to production? So what he's probably saying is, while you're giving a demo, you've created one set of things, and during the demo, the client comes up and says, oh, we wanted this also, we wanted this also. How do you actually handle that scenario?
So of course, in my scenario, it has happened many times. It's not just one product where I've worked. I've worked on small, medium, and large engagements all throughout, right? So see, when I'm talking about the biggest and the toughest engagement, but it will get easier in others ones, right? So what we used to do after first release is over, we used to have another team who used the testing, right? The internal to do the configuration and everything. When customer used to give us the feedback, we used to divide that feedback into P1, P2, P3, prioritization of the feedback. We used to set the expectation of the customer. The P1s are the one which we will take up in the next release. P2s are the one which we'll try to take up in the next release. P3 are the ones, we will probably take up in the future releases. And P5 probably is never going to come. P4s and P5s are never going to come. So that constant prioritization needs to happen through the product management. And you do need to show them that yes, you are taking their feedback. If you do not take that feedback in, see, you're with StoryPoint, your capacity is upfront. You can even share it with your customer that this is what we can do, and slowly increase the capacity. Capacity cannot be increased just by adding developer. It has to come from top down. The customer need to be very clear on their requirements. Our product management needs to be very clear on the story defining, and then the engineering team can be extended. It cannot be that okay, from 5 developers you increase it to 50 and you will be able to achieve everything. Everything has to come, requirements has to be clear. If that can come, yes, you can increase your team size. So that is how you set your customer expectation. Once you give them the clarity, you give them the reports. So what we used to do, another thing which we used to do before handing over the release at the end of the quarter, so every sprint we used to do the internal demo, right? When I say internal demo means the within the Genpact and to our other teams, right? But then if you are doing it to the customer, you do a monthly demos, so that you control the, you know, what you want to show. You don't hand over the release to the customer, you hand it over after the quarterly release. But you can always define, you know, either doing a sprint demos to the customer so that they know what's coming. Don't give them surprises. If you are going to give them surprises, you will get surprises.
I quite agree with you, and that's a very valid point, that people should, you know, somewhere have a takeaway, that always have a communication channel which is very transparent. I understand we cannot tell them everything, but that's a
Yeah.
very valid point that Roma said. Don't keep surprises. You know, at the end of the day, a month down the line, you suddenly come up and say, you know, things not working, or that is never good for either sides, not for the client, not for you as well. So very valid point there, Roma.
Yeah, you need to be very careful, as Anmol said, when you are communicating to customer. I'm not saying that open up all your dirty, you know,
Laundry.
you know, you should not. But you should tell them so that they understand what is the development process. They understand something is working today and tomorrow it is going to fail. So those things, those aspects of the agile, they need to understand. They should not be expecting like waterfall. Everything should be working, not like that. That expectation you need to set with them slowly.
True. Roma, so a little off context question here. So when you're talking about agile implementations and all, have you been working completely on T&M projects, or also you pick up some fixed price projects for the agile way of working?
Everything. I have done lots of them.
Okay.
The context which I told you, it is more or less the fixed price. But in fixed
Okay.
price also, once you have the requirements, that is where I said depth of the requirements. You will give them that, okay, this is my capacity, right? Even though it's a fixed price, you always divide it. If your fixed price release is of 1 year, divide it into 4 releases. At the end of the first release, you will know where you are heading. So I have worked in all different kinds of engagement. T&M are easy. T&M do not pose you challenges, right? And the product developments do not pose you challenges. These are the service, you know, assignment, the fixed price assignment, where we face most of the problems of this waterfall. BRDs, functional specs, all of these problems come when you, and that is where you need to define the P1, P2, P5, and give your capacity and say, we cannot do beyond this in your fixed price, right?
Got it. So that was my question. I've always been very intrigued with the you know, fixed price model. Let me see if there are any more questions. I know people are saying very good points here. So they are very happy. Somebody asked something about a Scrum Master. They said, you know, what do you understand is the actual role of a Scrum Master? You know, how important is a Scrum Master these days?
See, for me, I think Mandira also replied on that, and I'm going to reiterate on that part. See, you being agile coach, you cannot you cannot be in every nook and corner of the team. If you are a agile coach and if you have scrum masters, your POs, get them trained first of all in the agile practices or safe practice or any framework which you want to use, right? Get them trained on that. So scrum master plays very important role. They are the ones who are there, mini agile coaches within the team. You need to take their buy-in, you need to support them if you are an agile coach, and you need to help them understand like how a certain practice is going to help. So when I used to define a process, I used to take a buy-in from the leadership, from the, you know, engineering leader, from the product management leader, right? And then also I used to involve my scrum masters or the POs into it. I cannot run or define a process if there is no buy-in from that. And I do not expect scrum masters to be doing everything in the right way. You need to, because you are the agile coach, you are the, in safe terms you call yourself RTs or something, right? So basically you are the ones who are defining the process, be it right or wrong. You are the one defining the process but ready to change. So scrum master plays very important role. They have to be, you know, small project managers within their scrum teams, removing impediment, ensuring all the practices are happening in time, and they are your eyes and ears, and basically so that you can help them define the process, run the training. See, never expect other people like engineering and everyone to know agile. In my team, nobody still knows agile. But once I run the trainings, I tell them this is the small process, they agree, they understand, they see the benefit of it, right? They just need appreciations at the end of the release.
True, very true, Roma. So Roma, I think we are running out of time. There's just one last question, which I think is very relevant. So we've talked about generic scaling up of an agile model, where you're running it for a smaller team and then you're scaling it up. And there are multiple methodologies that people pick up. So there's something called SAFe, there's something called Spotify. Can you quickly tell what you think is the best model, or if you worked on more than one models, what do you think is a good way to go for organizations if they're thinking of scaling up? Which model should they actually adopt?
See, because I have worked mostly with the development teams and with the services organization, so either I have adopted Kanban or Scrum. When you are adopting Scrum, then I have adopted SAFe along with it, right, to scale the teams. But as I told you, for me, any framework or tool is not important. I might have brought in the practices from my waterfall days also, running so many things from there. That is how I could connect with my team so easily, right? I had been a CMI person, so I knew Fishbone and all of those processes, doing CAR, DARs, RCAs, etc. So I brought in a lot of practices. So I do not restrict myself to a framework. I take framework as a guideline to me. So I would not say that, okay, if your team feel comfortable with Spotify, go get yourself trained in Spotify and start from there. There are so many frameworks. So I do not restrict myself to a framework. I'm always open. So when my team brings to me, okay, here is the Kanban approach I'm using, I need to see whether the mindset or the principles are getting applied through that framework or not. That's the only thing I look for it. I don't specifically specify any framework which you need to adopt.
Very well said. And Gaurav, I think, said something very nice. He said the framework is a means and not an end. So I totally agree. So yeah, thank you very much. I think that makes sense. I guess we've kind of achieved what we set out to achieve here. We've I'm sure the audience has had good takeaways from this session, where they go back and they understand what scaling means, why scale, how scale. So the basic questions answered. Of course, like you said, it's a step-by-step process. Everybody needs to take it slow, get in their own set of challenges, work out a way, find the best thing that suits them and their teams, and their needs, basically. So, but thank you so much, Roma. It was a fantastic session. I mean, at least for me, I gained so much out of it. I had a few personal questions which I asked. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, audience, for actually taking out the time and sitting with us on a Sunday morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks Agile Network India for inviting me and giving me opportunity to talk about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Shreya, over to you.
Thank you.